Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happy new start to this like macro Sunday morning here as we go over the very high term timeframes, looking at the next probably couple months of price action as we'll go through and what essentially that means and what's the most likely based off the price statistics. Anyways, before we get into it, I do want to let anyone who was formally sent an email for the algo whitelist that got accepted that you have literally until the end of today to respond. Otherwise, we will give your spot to someone else. So if you are someone else who has not already received an email and you already fit the criteria, then you might get an email in the next day or two as we call a few people up, as there are still a few spots available. All right, cool. Other than that, I think it's time for me to just jump right into it, starting off right in over here with the monthly time frame for the accumulation distribution indicator chart, a chart that we always check in on at the beginning and end of a new month, of which we have a new month of April right here. April Fools. Nope, April, go fuck yourself. And it's my least favorite day, honestly. Or that's a very intense statement. I mean, it's not the best day, but there are other worse days, I'm sure. Anyways, yeah, so looking at it right here, a few things of interest. On the accumulation and distribution indicator, it has been incredibly accurate in getting the overall phases correctly in Bitcoin. The phase changes, I should say, from bullish to bearish and bearish to bullish. And in this case, anytime that we have seen a slope change on this indicator in extreme zones, whether it be the red or the green, it has correlated with a macro shift in direction. So what I've done here is I've marked off all of the times where the slope changed from down to up on the first tick. That is going to be the green vertical bars, and then we'll go over the blue ones in a second. But as you can see on the charts, all the green ones align with pretty much at the lows. Now, in all cases, the low was already in by at least 1 month's closure. But ultimately, what does it suggest? Well, once the slope change happened, that's when obviously the low was in, and then Bitcoin entered into a long-term sideways and up formation in some cases for the next few years. Now, in two of the cases, I would say there was a reasonable retest of the lows. That would be over here in 2015, and that would be over here again in 2019, done in 2020. But what I wanted to talk about now is the current trajectory of this, because obviously it did get an upward slope in March. We're in April now, but so what's the new information? Why are you showing me this shit, Krown? Get the shit out of my face. Well, as you can see, the slope has flatlined. So it's all for naught. That's right. It's going down. You know, no, it's done. Because I saw a lot of this talk in the Discord, which is always very interesting to see. But we can actually go over the historical times what we have seen is, the same sort of activity essentially, where first you get your upward slope and then you get a bit of a sideways slope after that. Happened very specifically in 2014 and 2015 right here, and then also more recently in 2019, coming off of the last $3,000 major macro low. And in this case, the blue vertical line correlates with, again, the flattening of the slope. And you can see that it typically comes after, or not typically, but in both cases came after a big upwards prior month. And then Bitcoin went ahead and kind of blew off its top in the next like 2 to 3 months, and then came back down, consolidated in this case in 2020, obviously very intensely. In this case over here, less so, but still, a pretty decent correction, I would say, from high to low. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like much on the chart, but that's a 33% move right there. I mean, that's pretty fucking big. And this one over here, obviously, much more so, about 71%. If you go on closures, maybe make that like 50-ish or so. Anyways, in this case over here, you can see that Bitcoin has obviously gotten the upward slope. Now we are flat. So what would we essentially expect based off of the the historical relevancy of this? Well, probably another move to the upside in the next coming months, and then followed by an abrupt consolidation, an abrupt crash. Probably a big move to the downside, anywhere between 30 to 50%. Honestly. So obviously it depends first and foremost how high Bitcoin gets on this current move. But for right now, all things do still suggest that generally speaking, over the next couple of months, we probably see some more upside. In the particular case of April, I think worst case scenario, we see a move down maybe just below $26,000. But long term, I really don't have a reason not to be bullish on this as long as Bitcoin is closed in higher term timeframes, especially above 25,500 or so, again, on a closing basis. Anyways, coming into the next chart as I get my notes ready over here, because I completely whiffed on that, I wanted to follow up on the MVRV chart as well. So this is the market this is the market cap realized cap chart, which basically what you need to know about this is that anytime that it's entered into the green zone on the bottom side here and then left that green zone, well, that has marked off not just the lows already in, but more importantly, the next momentous move to the upside beginning. So you can see, you can see all of the historical times, of which there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and working on number 6 right here. Well, I'll give you, I'll just give you like a very quick example where it'd be like a very easy one. Yeah, an easy one would be right here in 2019, right? Spend some time in the green zone, accumulate, and then boom, moves its way above there on a closing basis, and then sideways and up for the next like what, 4 to 6 months there. Same thing over here. Same thing over here, same thing even over here in 2010, and then of course a couple more times recently in 2019 and 2020. Anyways, in the last couple months here since February, we identified that this one was working its way above the green zone for the first time in a long time, and now it is finally getting consistent closures above that region. So ultimately, again, another thing that does suggest that, you know, long term probably does have more upside to come, and very likely the lows are in. Again, I'm not stating that the lows can't be retested. It's just, it could be something like this, right? It could be something very, very nasty like this. But ultimately, probably some more upside first and then coming down later. And coming down harshly, I should say. I mean, this is Bitcoin at the end of the day. It wouldn't be uncharacteristic for Bitcoin to do something like 40,000 and then come back down to 25,000. That would be basically par for the course for anyone who's been in this market for even just the last few years. You're probably very well aware of that fact. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, I did want to talk about the halving as well, because we are now about a year away, getting closer to about a year away from the halving. So what I've done here on this chart is I have marked off all of the halving dates by the green vertical bars here, and then just try to see what I could find, historically relevant to that for the past 3 times that we've had one. And what do you know? It's very interesting in the sense that about a year before the halving itself, there has been typically a breakout from the long-term weekly downtrend. So for example, in this case here for 2011, you can see downtrend emerges after the parabolic blow off top, and then about a year before, literally 1 year before, 52 bars on a weekly, obviously that's 1 year, breaks above that, goes for a massive fucking run. In this case, it doesn't look like much on this chart, but that's a 177% run over the course of a few months there, and then comes down very harshly, about 50%. Again, doesn't look like much on this chart, but it is over the next couple months. Same thing over here, right? Breaks above right here. Retested a few times, that's fine. No closures below, and goes on this amazing run over the next few months, about 100%, and then comes down again, very, very harshly here, about 30% plus. Again, just 1 year before the halving date. In fact, not 1 year, but 54 bars. So kind of similar right there, 52, 54. And then what do you know on this one over here, 58? There seems to be a relationship forming. 2, 4, maybe 6, maybe 8. In this case, again, same thing, long-term weekly downtrend gets broken right here. From there to the next major high, big move, obviously then comes down again, as we already saw, like 50+%. And then what do you know? Over here, we're 66 bars before 66 weeks before the halving, which is presumed to be about 1 year from now, in May of 2024. But again, these are estimated dates, so it might be like kind of there, kind of a little bit less, a little bit more. We don't necessarily know the exact date, but ultimately, about right on time, we see the breakout from the long-term diagonal trend line. And well, Bitcoin thus far has gone on a pretty impressive run from that breakout, from breakout to current high, about a 30% move. But what does that mean within the overall context of the historical data from this one? Well, we can go ahead and backtest exactly that, taking from the breakout to the next major high, and in measuring the days, and then measuring the next major low and measuring the days for that as well. So what I've done is I've done exactly that. And as you can see, on average, the breakout itself to find the next major high, not like the ultimate high, but the next major high was about 42 days on average, or sorry, not 42 days, but 100 days on average. Apologies. There's a bit of a spread right here, but about 100 days on average, which is what, just around 3 months basically. And the average return on that first major move, again, we see a lot of, there's only 3 here, but we do see some consistent results, 150%, 102, 160, basically giving us an average about 140. So again, from breakout to next major high on average, 100 days, about 3 months, about 140% on average, again, on the lower end, 100% on the upper end, above 150%. So going back into the chart right here, what essentially could we potentially be looking for? Well, again, the breakout happened over here, and 100 days would put us where? That would put us basically at the end of this month, like beginning of May. Sorry, I'm not doing this exactly precisely, but somewhere right around here. So yeah, that would give us, basically like to middle of May, maybe end of May, something like that. Again, we are dealing with averages here, not like exact certainties, but obviously, 100 days, about maybe end of May. And then if we were to go for, 100% move, obviously that's going to be pretty fucking impressive right here. It would certainly not be my first target, but again, this is Bitcoin after all. That would put Bitcoin into the $40,000 territory, which would be pretty nice, obviously. I have my own reservations with that, but it wouldn't be out of the context of the data, historically speaking, is kind of what I'm looking at right here, despite my personal thoughts about it. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, I did want to speak yet again about the week. Let's actually go over the 5-day Gaussian channel here first. So the 5-day Gaussian channel did this, quite a ways ago. This was back in middle of March, basically, where it closed above the top side 5-day band. So that was right here. This has really only happened, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 prior times in Bitcoin's history. But every time that it has happened, there has been, a nice relationship that has formed where basically breaking above the top side band has led to an initial massive move to the upside and then followed by a crash after that, basically. Pretty much all these same areas that we looked at before, but coming at it from a completely different angle. Before we were looking at a fundamentally based sort of thing. Now we're looking at a more technically and statistics based sort of thing here. So in this case, again, the relationship that I'm measuring here is basically when Bitcoin on the 5-day time frame after turning red on the Gaussian channel closes above the top side Gaussian channel, it typically goes on, a run. In this case, you can see that this one's actually like the least impressive run. But still from top band to next major high was, nearly 30% move over the course of 20 days or so. Anyways, I've gone ahead and measured all the prior ones, keeping in mind that we've actually already seen this happen over here. And what do you know? Well, we can actually just go ahead and see what we have as far as the data says. And out of 4 tested iterations, the average return was about 47%. So again, a lot less than what we just looked at on the prior one. So now we can start to come up with some ranges maybe. And then also the time till the next high was about 21 days on average with a standard deviation of 12. So, that could put us out to like basically a month or basically like a couple weeks. But I do think that this one's going to be on the upper end of that trajectory. And then also when we even look at the returns, the standard deviation at about 17% does, allow for a higher top end at about 64%. So again, getting some areas of interest here, generally speaking, from the time that we saw the Gaussian channel actually close above the top side channel there. How many days has it been? It has been about 15 days. On Thursday of this coming week, it'll be 20 days to put things into perspective. That would be the average, or about the average. And then from there, maybe on the upper end, we see another 10 days, which again would put us into like mid-April, basically. And of course, from the closure of the topside band there to the next major high, on average, we did see a return of basically like somewhere around 50%, let's say, which would put Bitcoin where? Actually, that would be very similar to the last thing that we just looked at, like a little bit below $40,000. Again, there is some variance in here, obviously, giving us range between 30 to basically 60%, but the average being just below 50% in this case. So ultimately, would something in like the deep 30s, low 40s be, super out of the question? It would appear not. But again, I have my own reservations with that. But ultimately, that's beside the point. At the end of the day, this is valid, aka not invalidated, until as long as Bitcoin's above 25.5 on a higher term time frame closing basis. Anyways, taking this another step further, a few things are at stake at the end of the week here, at the end of the weekly close, obviously. One of them is going to be the weekly Gaussian channel, which is going to have a chance to close above the mean band here for the first time since, well, basically a year ago. But again, same thing as the 5-day. Anytime that we have seen a closure above the mean band, there has been a free ride to the top side of the Gaussian channel, when it was red, like, same thing over here, right? Anyways, in this case, if Bitcoin were to close above the mean band, it would just have to close today above 27,600. Currently almost trading about $1,000 above that current pivot, but obviously 18 hours, 17 minutes, and 36 seconds is a long day left to go. But again, where would the top side Gaussian channel be? About $32,500 or so. So even that would be, suggesting some more immediate or short-term-ish in the next couple of weeks continuation, somewhere into the low 30s. So now we can kind of, put the puzzle piece together, I suppose. Anyways, on top of that, the weekly jewel is also going to have a chance to not just curl to the upside, but also put in that light blue cyan color supported by DMI. This would be a continuation signal for what it's worth. And then, of course, we have some that we alluded to yesterday, which is still very much relevant today, and that is going to be the quarterly, showing some hidden bullish divergence. We have 1, 2, 3 drives, which is actually the way that the last macro low was created as well, alongside incredibly low levels of quarterly volatility. So, we are winding up for likely one of the bigger moves in Bitcoin's history. At least that's what that would imply. But then again, it's like, it is quarterly on an asset that's only been around for about 10 years or a little bit above 10 years. So maybe it's not that much to be going off of. Anyways, one more thing I do want to get into, there was a couple more things, but this video is already pretty damn long. I'll go with the easier of the two in this case. And we'll go over here. Or should we go over there? Should we go over here? We'll do this one actually, because this one actually does make more sense. But the other one is pretty fucking good too. Anyways, 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum signature here. Again, anytime that we have seen 5-day volatility get to extreme lows, what it defined as anything below 15 percentile or more on the BBWP indicator, and then expand from those extreme lows, it's led to an average move of around about 40% over the course of about just over a month. And the direction of the stochastic oscillator has had a very strong correlation to the direction of volatility expansion. So a few things here. One, the 5-day stochastic oscillator continues to remain to the upside and will be having upside curvature as long as Bitcoin's closing above $25,000 basically. Again, that's $25,000. And then also, well, I forgot to mention, hey, yeah, volatility is expanding, but that's nothing new right there. And then of course, this happened back on over here in kind of early mid-ish March. And from there to where we're at right now, it's been about 20 days. So 20 days, again, looking on average, like just above a month. We're probably looking into like middle of April. This is still, it's still kind of reasonable to expect that this one probably has one more drive to the upside, or at least one more try to the upside. And with the average move, actually, Jesus, man, what even happened there? Oh, nice. Good job, bot. Good job, you little slave, you fucking slave. Wonder if that's like not okay to say. Anyways, we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough, man. But these bots are slaves, or maybe in the future we're gonna be looking at they'll be like archaeologists digging up AI and bots and shit, and they'll be like, they treated these poor sentient creatures like slaves. Chat GPT, we must worship thee. Forgive us for our sins. Give reparations to Chat GPT. We're very sorry. Anyways, we've seen 11 prior iterations over the full history of Bitcoin where there's been a long signal for this, and another like 8 or 9, and another 10 for the short side. But in this case, obviously, the long side is the one that's working in this case. And in this particular one, we've seen an average trend of about 43% over the course of about 33 days. Standard deviation of 10. And also standard deviation for the returns at about 10%. So, on the average, about 43%, on the upper end, about 53%. And what do you know? If we take that from the current setup given, 43% puts you kind of basically where we're at right now, just below 30,000 bucks. So a little bit more, I suppose. 53% puts you in the low 32s or so. So again, these last two charts that we looked at do still suggest that in the next 10, maybe 20 days at most, if there's going to be another leg, probably somewhere around there, then I'd probably be expecting another short-term consolidation, and then maybe like late, mid-May or something, Bitcoin makes its highs and then comes back down pretty damn harshly, because I don't think actually I went over it fully over here, but when we did speak about the halving breakout, or the Gaussian channel breakout for that matter, Bitcoin did go on an average major loss after that run of about 43%. So, putting this into perspective, right? Let's say Bitcoin did run up to, I'm not saying it's going to, but let's say it ran up to 40,000 bucks basically. Well, if it then came down from the average at like 40%, where would that put Bitcoin? 25,000 bucks. Like, that's not out of the question. Like, that's really not out of the question. It could be something like this. But yeah, anyways, a long way of saying that, I still believe that the macro low is very likely in, based off statistics and probabilities. Other than that, it's probably time for me to show Bybit, as I haven't done that just yet. Bybit still is offering 0% maker fees on derivative contract orders with, I believe, only my link in the description below. And then, of course, you can also get the Jewelite for free for 30 days. And even get locked in at a lower price long term, as we're going to be changing the service in the next 2 weeks on April 15th. Just April 15th, that's the date. That's when it changes. Until then, you can get the first month free, and also after that, you will be locked in at whatever at the current price, not the new price that will be higher in just about 13 days from now. All right, cool. Good time for me to end this one. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.